Okay, now let me be very frank here. If you cannot add, subtract, multiply and divide positive and negative numbers with a certain amount of confidence, you don't stand a cat in hell's chance of getting on with algebra above the most basic of operations. So you do need to be proficient with these 4 operations. If you are already proficient, then please turn off this video and get on with the hard stuff. Still here? Okay, you obviously need a little bit of help. So the first thing to remember is that multiplying and dividing positive and negative numbers involves a completely different set of operations to adding and subtracting. And generally speaking, multiplying and dividing is much easier than adding and subtracting. So let's do that first. Now, there's only one rule you need to remember. If you are multiplying or dividing positive and negative numbers, the number part of the answer is always the same, regardless of the signs of the 2 numbers you started with. So all you have to do is to work out the sign of the answer. And that's very simple. If the 2 numbers you are multiplying or dividing have the same sign, both positive or both negative, the answer is always positive. And if they have different signs, one positive, one negative, the answer is always negative. So let's try that with the 2 numbers 20 and 5. There are 4 combinations possible for multiplication. 20 times 5, 20 times negative 5, negative 20 times 5, and negative 20 times negative 5. In every case, the answer involves the number 100, and all we have to do is to work out whether it is positive 100 or negative 100. In the first and last cases, the signs are the same, both positive or both negative, so the answers are both positive 100. In the second and third cases, the signs are different, one positive and one negative, so the answers are both negative 100. And it's the same with division. Here again are our 4 combinations, only this time it's divide and not multiply. Again, in the first and fourth examples, the signs are the same, so the answers are both positive 4. And in the second and third examples, the signs are different, so the answers are both negative 4. And that's basically it. The problem arises very often because we also use the word minus a lot, and minus can mean subtract or it can mean negative. And these are 2 completely different things, but we mix and match these 2 meanings as though they were the same thing. Now, I have a lot to say on this subject, but probably this isn't the place to do it. When you're stuck, think in terms of negative and subtract, and try not to use the word minus until you have mastered the processes without it. And be very careful about sentences you might hear, such as 2 minuses make a plus. So now we know the rules, let's take a couple more examples. Firstly, 50 divided by negative 2. Forget the signs for a moment. 50 divided by 2 is 25, so that gives us the actual number. Now we look at the signs and see that one is positive and the other is negative, so our answer must be negative as the signs are different. Therefore 50 divided by negative 2 is negative 25. And our second example, negative 0.4 multiplied by negative 200. First, ignore the signs and just work out the numbers again. 0.4 times 200 is 80, and the signs are the same, both negative in this case, so the answer is positive 80. And there you are. Once you have the idea, that's all pretty straightforward. So now we come to the delicate business of adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers, and it seems there are just about as many ways of teaching this as there are math teachers. Everybody seems to have their own take on it. So the first thing I need to say to you is that if you have a method for adding and subtracting that works, always gives the right answer, and that you fully understand, there isn't much point in you watching the rest of this movie, because the worst thing you can do is get 2 completely different methods mixed up. Now I'm going to show you a method that you've probably never come across before, but it does involve a health warning. You're probably not going to like this if you're a bit of a feminist, because it involves the saying it's a woman's prerogative to change her mind. Now, don't blame me. I'm not here to discuss political correctness. I'm here to teach you maths. And it's the women that have told me this. A woman can always change her mind. So this is what you need to know to use this method. Positive numbers are male and negative numbers are female. Have you got that? Positive numbers are male, negative numbers are female. And by which I mean that men never change their minds about anything, and women always do change their minds. But don't blame me, it's those women that told me this. Okay, let's see how we can use this to add and subtract positive and negative numbers. Now, when we're doing this, the first number is the starting point on the number line. The add or subtract sign tells us which way we want to go along the number line, add being to the right and subtract being to the left. This is the natural way of things. Now look at the sign of the second number. If this number is positive, go in the direction we normally want to go. If the second number is negative, change your mind and go in the opposite direction, remembering it's a woman's prerogative to change her mind. Now, this is so new and, dare I say, controversial, you'll be in desperate need of a few examples. So here we go, watch carefully. Firstly, let's calculate -6 plus 9. Now, you probably know the answer to this already, but please watch the process. Begin at -6 on the number line. The operation is add, so we naturally want to go to the right. The second number is positive, and positive numbers are male, remember, so there's no need to change your mind. Simply go 9 places to the right, and that brings you to 3, positive 3 that is, on the number line. So -6 plus 9 is positive 3, which is probably what you'd already guessed. So take a deep breath and let's have a look at another one. What about -6 add -4? Again, -6 is the starting point on the number line, and the operation is again add, so we want to go to the right. That's the natural thing to do for addition. But this time, the number we are adding is negative, i.e. a female. So change your mind and go left instead. So we start at -6 and move 4 places to the left, which brings us to -10. So -6 add -4 is -10. You will see that this method demonstrates that adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers is really just a matter of sliding up and down the number line. It's all just a case of knowing where to start and which way to go. Ready for another example? Okay, let's try 9 subtract -3. A subtraction sign next to a negative sign. Now remember, I'm going to do this without mentioning the word minus. So here we go. You'll remember that we start at the first number. So imagine we're standing at 9, positive 9, on the number line. We are subtracting, so we want to go to the left. But the number we are subtracting is -3. i.e. a female number, so we change our minds and go 3 places to the right instead, bringing us to positive 12 on the number line. So 9 subtract -3 is 12, positive 12. Now here's another example. -7 subtract 12. Before we get going, be clear that what we're doing here is subtracting a positive number. That 12 is a positive number. Start at -7 on the number line, and we want to go left because we're subtracting. And the number we are taking away is positive, which is male, so we don't change our minds. We just go left 12 places from -7, and that brings us to -19. So -7 subtract 12, it's positive 12, is -19. Like anything new, this method may seem strange at first, especially if you're used to your teacher talking about 2 minuses make a plus, taking away a debt, filling a bucket with negative water, etc. But the rules are very simple with this method, and if you stick to them, you'll always get the right answer. So let's recap. The first number in the sum is the starting point on the number line. If the operation is add, you would naturally want to go to the right as you would expect, and if the operation is subtract, you would want to go to the left. If the second number is positive, i.e. male, you go that way. If the second number is negative, i.e. female, you change your mind and go the other way. Now what could be simpler? Finally, just a reminder to keep the multiplication and division calculations completely separate from the addition and subtraction calculations. Now, if you want a little practice to polish up your skills, stop the video now and try these few questions. Jot down the answers and then restart the video to see if you got them right.